The old man was relaxing in the sun, completely unaware that the zombies behind him were feeding. It wasn't until someone inside the house shouted at him that the old man woke up from his daydream.
What are you all doing in there?
The people inside warned him not to make any noise as it would attract the zombie behind him.
I can't hear. You'll have to speak up.
However, the old man's hearing seemed to be poor, and by now, the zombie had already noticed him. The people in the room were getting more and more anxious, but the old man still didn't know what they were trying to say. He decided to get closer.
He's mutton Jeff. Jeff as a fucking post.
He'd move
I'll come over there.
a bit quicker if it was dinner time.
Hamish! There's a zombie right behind you! Move! Run now!
Run! Oh, it's a zombie.
The old man was terrified and ran wild. Yet, the zombie's speed was incredibly fast, almost on par with his own. The old man soon felt his strength was running out, and it was only a matter of time before the walkers caught up with him. In a critical moment, his companions inside the house came to the rescue and brought him a wheelchair. Without hesitation, the old man got on the wheelchair, and with the help of his fellow residents, he safely made it back inside the house. Why were there zombies in the nursing home? To understand that, we need to go back to the morning. A construction team had uncovered an ancient tomb at their work site. As two workers approached, they thought they had struck gold, believing there must be valuable treasures inside. However, when they entered the tomb, they discovered nothing but skeletal remains scattered everywhere. One of the workers had a sense that something was wrong. How could there be so many bodies in a single tomb? However, his colleague was not impressed and picked up a skull to play with. Unbeknownst to he, a zombie was creeping up behind he. Thus, the zombie virus quickly spread at the construction site. Adjacent to the site was a nursing home that was soon to be demolished. The director, Ray, was troubled by the situation as the demolition meant that dozens of elderly residents would be left homeless. Ray's two foster sons regularly delivered food to the elderly residents of the nursing home. Upon learning about the impending demolition, they decided to rob a bank to help Ray reclaim the nursing home. They gathered their former best companions, Katie, who had locksmith skills and was a tech enthusiast, Davey, a computer geek, and Mickey, who dealt in underground arms trade. Mickey, rumored to be a former soldier, had a metal plate implanted in his head due to a head injury sustained on the battlefield. Soon, they arrived in a van outside the bank, disguising themselves as construction workers to gain entry. Lacking experience in bank robbery, they were unsure how to proceed. Just then, the bank manager stepped out and asked if they were there to withdraw money. In a confused state, they unknowingly agreed. Accompanied by the manager, they entered the bank. It turned out that the manager had mistaken them for representatives from the construction company who were coming to collect payment for a project. However, after a brief conversation, the manager started to realize that something was amiss and pressed the alarm button. Seeing the situation escalate, Mickey wasted no time and revealed his gun, forcing the manager to lead them to the vault. As they laid eyes on the neatly arranged cash, they were astounded by the sight of so much money, but as they joyfully prepared to leave with the money, they discovered that the police had been waiting for them. Without hesitation, Mickey opened fire, forcing them to retreat back into the bank. Taking two hostages, they planned to negotiate their way out. However, when they stepped outside again, they found chaos reigning in the streets. With zombies roaming around, they realized the gravity of the situation and made a swift escape with the hostages. Meanwhile, the zombies had infiltrated the nursing home. A caregiver went up to ask about the situation and ended up being bitten by a zombie on the spot. The elderly people quickly evacuated while Ray took cover behind them. Ray was once a soldier who took out a zombie with one punch. Then he escaped with an old woman. They intended to leave through the back door, but to their dismay, it was also infested with zombies. The nursing home was surrounded by a horde of them. They had no choice but to take shelter in the kitchen, barricading all the doors and windows, awaiting rescue. On the other side, several people arrived at a factory with a full load. As soon as they got out of the vehicle, they spotted a zombie approaching them. Grumpy Mickey walked up and shot straight away. But Mickey didn't know that zombies are supposed to shoot at the head and ended up getting bitten hard by a zombie. Unable to watch any longer, Katie grabbed the gun from Mickey's hand and skillfully killed the zombie. But the next second, another zombie appeared in the corner. Pushing a pram, Mickey kills the zombie and picks up the baby in the pram. It seemed that even hot-headed Mickey had a soft side. However, this was no ordinary baby. They then entered the interior of the factory, where Mickey started showing strange symptoms after being bitten. Fearful of being abandoned by the group, Mickey snatched Terry's car keys and insisted on keeping the 2 hostages under his watch. Terry had already noticed that something was off with Mickey and that he could mutate at any moment, but with Mickey holding a gun, they didn't dare provoke him. Mickey took the hostages to a different area and bound them to a pillar. As Mickey lay on the couch, he gradually lost consciousness. Just as the hostages were about to break free, Mickey suddenly stood up and it was clear that he had completely mutated. Seeing Mickey approaching them, the 2 hostages were terrified, but the pillar temporarily blocked Mickey's path. Others heard the commotion and rushed over. Terry quickly pulled Mickey away and decisively shot him in the head. However, the bullets had no effect on Mickey, as his head was protected by the iron plate, and they even rebounded. After several unsuccessful attempts by Andy, Terry directly retrieved a hand grenade and placed it in Mickey's mouth. In the confusion, the male hostage took the opportunity to grab a gun and prepare to fight back. But the next second, several zombies appeared behind him.
You might want to turn around, there's a couple of zombies creeping up behind you. Well, yeah.
Do you honestly think I'm that stupid?
The unbelieving man was torn apart by the zombies. He managed to shoot and kill Davy before dying. After a few seconds of sadness, they were ready to get up and go to the nursing home. Terry stopped giving Emma a hard time and explained to her the reason for the bank robbery. He handed her a gun and gave her the option to leave or stay with them. Considering the dangerous situation outside, Emma chose to stay with them. Andy obtained the car keys from Mickey's body, and they drove out of the factory. Their first stop was Emma's house because she wanted to check if her family was safe. But when she reached the upstairs, she found the house empty, indicating a grim situation. They had to keep going. However, at that moment, something magical happened on the streets outside. Fans of Argentina and Portugal, despite being turned into zombies, did not forget to support their favorite teams. The 2 sides engaged in a fierce battle. In the confusion, the group quickly escaped by car. They then arrived at Mickey's hideout and took away a large cache of weapons. Considering the number of elderly people in the nursing home, they switched to a double-decker bus. Driving the bus, they quickly reached the nursing home. However, the entrance was filled with zombies. Emma took charge of driving and lured the horde away, while the others infiltrated the nursing home from the rooftop. After eliminating a few zombies, they opened the skylight, and Ray happened to be waiting by the window. Seeing that it was 2 adopted sons who had come to their rescue, they told them to go in first before making plans. Because some of the elderly people have difficulty with their legs, they are unable to escape through the skylight. Andy had prepared in advance. He tossed a bag onto the table.
Oh, boys, now you're talking my language.
And all the elderly people picked up weapons. They then opened the rolling shutter and threw a grenade into the zombie crowd. After a loud and powerful explosion, most of the zombies near the entrance were cleared out. Everyone immediately rushed out and engaged in a fierce firefight, eliminating the remaining zombies. They regrouped outside, where Emma had just circled back, but there are still plenty of zombies here. The others provided covering fire while they waited for all the elderly to board the bus. As soon as everyone was on board, they quickly drove away from the area. Unfortunately, the bus broke down shortly after they set off. They had no choice but to continue on foot towards a nearby dock. With the zombie horde relentlessly chasing them, they fought as they walked and eventually arrived safely at the pier. Fortunately, there was a yacht there. Terry and Andy killed the approaching zombies while the elderly boarded the boat. Once everyone has boarded the yacht, the engines are then started. However, just as they were about to set sail, they realized that the chain binding the yacht hadn't been released. In an emergency, Ray stepped forward without hesitation. Although he successfully freed the chain, he was overwhelmed by the zombie horde. Just as the other 3 were about to jump in and rescue him, a miracle occurred. Ray managed to break through the encirclement. Together, they opened fire and eliminated the remaining zombies. They returned to the boat again and fled London on the yacht. Ray's bravery won the heart of an old lady, and Andy found true love. Countless helicopters flew across the sky, confident that the crisis would soon be over.